back. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's John and Danny.
Guys, welcome. Like, we have the curtain back. We have like a small, slow, smooth or zoom in. I can't talk. That's not new. Welcome to Grim After Dark. My name is John, and this is your weekly Warhammer rundown, where we hit the high points of the last week in the community, talk to the best players and content creators from around the world. LVO month is finishing up this week on Grim After Dark with LVO color commentator and Warhammer statistician Peter Duke Falcon Colosimo, as he rejoins us to talk about the armies, players, and food establishments to watch out for at this weekend's Las Vegas Open. My co-host today, who needs some introduction, he is the terror of the mid-tables, and my partner for the Long Wars doubles team tournament this weekend is Danny McDivett. Danny, how are you doing?
Doing great, John. Doing great.
Awesome. Thank you, Fake Rich, for setting up the TV there. Even though I know for a fact that you watch every single quality piece of entertainment the Frontline Gaming Network produces, I want to take you back to last Thursday on the Thursday show during their Fuego Rapido segment, and this part in particular.
Next one. Okay, who would win in an Anchorman style battle from Frontline Gaming Network shows? The Thursday show, which is the... I don't want to say what the answer is because I'm still reading the question, versus Chapter Tactics versus Signals from the Front Line versus Grim After Dark. Who would win that style of battle?
You go first,
it's not even a freaking question, right? Like, so Grim After Dark, like Danny, take one swing and giggle and run off into the distance. And so, not a contest, not a contest at all. That's just a rollover. Signal,
guys. Danny. While I appreciate that the guys on the Thursday show followed the official FLGN style guide and made absolutely zero mention of me at all, they had some really harsh words for you, Danny. What is your take on this very spicy take from the Thursday show?
What a joke.
I will say.
I mean, I don't have to say anything other than that. I mean, like, what? I thought these guys were supposed to be good at analysis because clearly they're terrible. So that's too. Sorry, I did it too much.
Oh, you took all my F-bombs for the later joke. Oh, no.
I just stole yours. Yeah. What are you going to do about it now?
Oh, my gosh. Well, wear sleeves for one. Take that, Camilleri. Danny, you responded to the sleeveless sycophant known as Adam Camilleri, our guest today's partner in crime. These harsh words led me to create this amazing Photoshop. I call it the Paul Dustillery, which is a combination of the lethalest things from each host country. There is a snake from Australia, a gun from America, and a little fuzzy winter hat from Canada. And that is nice. Yeah, that is. Look at that adorable little thing. No one thinks it's a threat whatsoever, much like the Thursday show. Hey, so Chapter Approved is finally here. Danny, you and I have spent hours poring over the new missions and points, with one point change in particular standing out to Danny.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. Straight up gangster.
Danny, now, for those people who are smart enough not to watch us live or at all on Twitch or YouTube or other places, what is straight up gangster about the point changes in Chapter Approved?
Well, I mean, of course, the Necron point changes are the only meaningful and popular point changes that you'll see, except for the Custodios ones. Well, we're not going to talk about those. Those were clearly a mistake. No.
I was going to say, the Silent King is now 420 points.
That's right.
I'm making him the coolest model in 40K as he has the drug number as his points value. And unfortunately,
if we could just drop Tomb Spiders to 69 points, we'd really get, we'd really have a solid meme going here.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, unfortunately, while no Death Guard units points changed to a nice round 69, also known as the sex number, the army actually still got in the book. And further Necro, that was my one, Tyler. That was the one I asked for. Danny stole two before that. I apologize. And further Necron meme news, Danny, explain this one to me.
All right.
Oh, no, that was the wrong one. Looks like that one didn't upload. Anyway, there was a meme. Man, let's do this visual audio program.
Okay, no, yeah, let's tell a story, John. We'll paint a picture with words.
We're going to paint a picture. So it's the Tau Hammerhead railgun, the boogeyman of Warhammer 40K right now. and how you, as a proud Monolith owner, don't actually care about it now because you don't have an environment. Tell me,
I
tell me
never
about that, man.
had one to begin with, John. It doesn't matter to me.
Nope.
So
Because the Monolith, well, it doesn't have an invul, a giant testicular, like triangular thing. There it is.
We go. I like that it's stacked on top of the other one.
Yeah, for sure. Makes
Perfect.
it really easy to process. I was going to say, it reminded me of what I look forward to here, which is the one hidden behind it, where Black Templars, I get a 5-up invulnerable for everything, and Arrogant Tau people are like, no, you don't. There's been a whole ton of talk about the Hammerhead. It's kind of captured the community's imagination and just kind of lit a meme fire over everything. Danny, why do you think the Hammerhead has been such a touchstone for these?
Honestly, I don't really. I mean, maybe people are like excited that they're good again, but I don't get it. Any tank that's named after like a B tier shark is going to be like not that good.
I'm just excited.
Yeah,
the four of my units of turn are just going to be really dead.
Give me a Mako, the Tau Mako, and then we'll start talking, or maybe the Tau Thresher Shark.
Okay. I'm hearing from a producer. Our guest wants to rate sharks in tiers later, so we better save this.
Yeah, dude, I'm ready for that
later on.
Yeah,
because God knows when we invite Peter the Falcon on, we would ever want to talk about Warhammer. It's all movies and shark tiers.
True.
Perfect. Yeah, and Daddy, and moving on from Tau, this Tabletop Inquirer hitting gold once again with an unfortunate incident of a tournament opponent eating shredded cheese directly out of the bag.
It's true.
It's a fine meme. I will say, if I play you at LVO or at any event, do not eat cheese out of the bag in front of me. That is beyond the worst thing. I will take your picture and use you as an unfunny joke in a moderately successful Warhammer podcast for at least 3 weeks before I forget. But Danny, you had something to do about this, right?
I've heard tale of a tournament gamer playing orcs. I'm not going to name names. I don't want to call somebody out, who ate straight up feta out of a jar of feta with a spoon during a tournament. Also, a can of unheated black beans.
No. Was he trying to do like a stomach tortilla where he eats all the individual components?
Trying to make a little burrito in his mouth or something? That is not even like Mexican cheese. I don't know. Like, maybe if he would have done like queso fresco, but like, no, he didn't.
Maybe that's how we get to the shadow round on Saturday, Danny, is we just bring a cheese cart with us and we just start slowly cutting slices of cheese off mid-game. And the worse we're doing, the smellier cheese we choose to cut at that time.
Perfect.
Love it.
It's brilliant. And let's make sure it's unrefrigerated.
For sure. And I'll just repeat, I could do that. And only 7 people could show up for LVO. I'm not making top 8. But we are headed to Vegas this weekend. And our one fan is too. He says, you guys are my favorite 40K show. As your only fan, I might be organizing a fan meetup at LVO. Also, I may not. And this is the kind of dedication that I appreciate from our listeners.
Well, no less than we expect.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like, I wish he would stop lying to himself. I'm sure that there's other better podcasts that he enjoys, or, show or whatever.
Maybe his mom only lets him listen to one podcast a week, and that's the first one that downloads in his feed, because the FLGN is one amalgamation of great shows like this, informative shows like, Signals from the Front Line, and then the Thursday show. So, like, this is just sort of the one he gets from that.
You just rank them, though, like B tier, A tier, and then down to F tier. So, it's
a real. The schedule's a real BAF schedule. It's BAF. That's how the week goes. But Danny and I, we're super excited to get to play some amazing games of 40K this weekend. We're also excited that the guy is going to finally meet himself, because he's going to have a meetup for fans of our show.
Yeah,
which is literally just him. No one else. Super.
I hope he really gets in touch with himself and he can really kind of connect with some of his inner monologue. And
if we can help that one person, then this 32 weeks of this show will not have been worth it. But anyway, in the very real chance that you don't make the top 8 at LVO, the LVO pub crawl is officially on, and you too can spend Saturday night not playing in shadow rounds like a nerd, but drinking like a depressed grown-up in the beautiful Twilight City of Vegas. Danny, you and I are in that picture. Phil,
Yeah.
past guest, is in the picture. That's like a who of 40K in one picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say it's off camera here, but if you were to move the camera over to the right, you would see what is now a boarded up, closed up blue ribbon chicken, a casualty of COVID. We're really going to miss you. Rest in peace, blue ribbon chicken.
Rest in peace.
Rest
I
in
even
peace.
started eating chicken again, so I could go back there.
I know you've
But
been
no
practicing, and I really appreciate that about it.
I've been practicing my chicken eating. It's not paid off. I have to go see the Colonel for some fake nuggets. Guys, LVO 2022 is this week. And Reese wanted us to let you know that masks will be required indoors in Vegas, and that will be enforced with the obvious exceptions of when people are eating or drinking. If you are a foreign visitor and you are coming into Vegas for the event, you can get any mandatory testing you need done at places found at www.umcsn.com/travel or many local pharmacies. And I'm sure there'll be at least a small Canadian contingent making the way the long fabled trek to Walgreens on Sunday. We can't wait to see everyone there at an LVO that will be bigger than ever. The full event will be getting live streamed on the FLGN. Find folks like Adam Camilleri from the Thursday show, Peter the Falcon from This Show Today, Magikarp Matt from Chapter Tactics, Seth and Kicker from Signals from the Frontline, and of course myself and Danny will be there and helping to make the best damn Steam you can imagine. That's the 4th week I've said Steam, but if you don't update the copy, I'm just going to read what's on the screen of Wrong Burgundy style. This year, we're going to have a bunch of awesome stuff planned, but we are here for one reason and one reason only today, and that is the video.
What video?
If you are worried that we won't very poorly repurpose that for every single Frontline event this entire season, need not worry. Cherokee Open is only a month away, and guest producer Richard has been given a small task to do for 2 weeks from now on Grim After Dark. But Danny, why don't you introduce us to our second most frequent guest on this show?
Really? Second most frequent?
3 times.
Jesus. We need to find some new people. So let's welcome to the podcast. You know him, you may love him, many do not. He's the man with probably the most mobile eyebrows in 40K. Tonight, I'm pleased to welcome Peter Colosimo to the podcast. Look at them go! Wow.
So shark tiers.
Okay.
So F tier is definitely the nurse shark because that's a piece of garbage shark. Not even really a shark when you think about it. D
it's
tier,
just a big fish, right?
D tier whale shark, super cool. Not even a shark though, like legit not a shark. So it
More
gets
like a
D.
whale?
Yeah. C tier, the killer whale. That's definitely not a shark, but just murders other sharks, so it just gets on the list because of that.
Wouldn't he become S tier at that point, though?
No, like we're gonna get there. Like S tier, there's only one. It's just like how like competitive 40K has been for a long time. There's really only one. And then you got your B tier, like the mako shark, the tiger shark, because that just murders people straight up. He's a straight up gangster. And then you A tier is the hammerhead because its head is shaped like a hammer, Danny. How you could dump it down? No. It is a
its eyes don't even. It doesn't even have binocular vision. It doesn't
need them.
On the side of its head.
It doesn't need to. It's just so crazy. And then you've got the sand shark, the yellow shark, and that tiny shark that's like basically invisible.
There's no such thing as the yellow shark. Now you're just making up animals.
These are all sharks. And then the S tier is the movie Avatar.
Great callback. I love that. To our last episode where we surprised everyone by not actually talking about 40K for an hour.
So with that in mind, what did you guys have me on the show for? Because I have no idea.
Well, it's LVO this week. You're a commentator.
yeah.
You're a beloved member of the community. That's pretty much. I mean, I did do a quick Google search on you, so I can be a professional interviewer, kind of like Steve Joel, whose new season of 40K Game Changers is, of course, available now on the Frontline Gaming Network. And it does tell me that you're actually a dentist in Wisconsin with Shorewood Family Dentistry. So how do you balance 40K stats and a career in dentistry?
So this dentistry thing is actually a big deal for me. I personally am actually in air traffic services just shy of the Arctic. But this Wisconsin dentist dude stole my identity at one point, and I'm not lying. This is 100% true. I don't think he did it purposefully, but I'm quite sure our email addresses must be like a decimal apart because I have received so many emails for this goddamn Wisconsin dentist. Like at one point he like broke his washing machine, and I got all these emails from his landlord, and I'm like, who the fuck are you, buddy? And now,
well, Peter, Big Don Colosimo 420 at gmail.com. It's got to be a pretty common email address for people.
It is. It really is. It really is. We actually hand it down in my family. Going all the way back to Diamond Jim Colosimo in the early 1910s, before he was assassinated by Al Capone. That he had the first Gmail email address, and that's what he went with.
Yeah. The big dong, the 420 isn't the drug number. That's the number of Colosimos who have.
Yeah, we just add a number to the end. Yeah.
So yeah, he was just lucky enough to be the 420.
You got it. You nailed it. But yeah, now I get emails from Cisco Systems about my like network at the dentist's office and plans to upgrade it. And I don't know what to do anymore. You can't tell them no. Yeah, so I just agree. I just agree to all of it. I'm just like,
upgrade it to the biggest package, please.
To be honest,
he probably does. He's just like, man, they're doing so much work for me.
How many emails do you think Dentist Peter gets about random people wanting to know their ELO scores?
It's a good question. Probably a lot, I would say. Yeah.
And he's probably on some dentistry podcast. Well, okay. Let's take a look here and what guest producer Richard has created for us. Let me get out of the way here.
Whoop, hey, sorry guys.
What we got here?
I just whipped up a quick tier list based on the Falcons numbers there. So I just wanted you guys to take a look. Yep. Yeah. Okay.
Nailed it. Okay. Nailed it as always.
I do like that, like most of the internet, you didn't actually use your own opinion or facts in these things. You just blindly listened to what Peter said and said that was true.
God, look at the
and created graphics to go with it.
It's literally my job to just listen and do. Yeah.
That's fair. Danny, how's that tier list for you?
I mean, it's better than Peter's.
Into Peter's mouth, if you want to be honest.
Danny really hates the hammerhead shark, though, for some stupid reason.
A stupid shark, that's why. It can't even bite. Like, it's just got a stupid mouth.
He does have a stupid mouth, I'll give you that. Yeah. But its head is too cool.
Wonderful. So, LVO is this weekend.
Yes.
It's a Warhammer tournament in Las Vegas. It's been around for a few years. Peter, you've done one or two things with it before.
Yes,
this year... You get to be the so-called color commentator, is what I call you as, in the Camilleri Colosimo powerhouse combo. What are you excited to see this weekend?
Nothing excites me about this game anymore. There are not going to be any surprises. Like what do you want me to say? Like I'm going to sit in a booth on a stage, living my dream. But I have to do it beside that Australian bastard, Adam Camilleri. Which means I'm not going to actually get to speak. Like you
won't.
Camera is just going to be on Adam, and occasionally I'll be able to say, "What do you mean?" Like that's all I'll get out.
So, what's it like to have your dream become ashes in your mouth as soon as
it is highly depressing. Like I leave tomorrow. My trip takes like 3 days to get to Las Vegas because I have to drive 8 hours to get to the airport, and then I've got to get tested and. Adam is demanding that I get a tuxedo, which unfortunately I am unable to purchase here. So I'm going to have to get there super early to get something even remotely tailored. It's a whole thing. And then I'm going to fly to Las Vegas on Thursday, land, help Reese set up all the tables he doesn't have, and that'll be the extent of it. And then people will yell at me about the lack of terrain on the lower tables, and I'll just be like, no one cares about you. That'll be it. Literally, no one cares about you. I don't care
really
who it is.
Going to the championship.
John Lennon will be there. Like, Peter, you can't do this. And I'll be like, I can do whatever I want. I'm an adult. I can have ice cream for breakfast.
I have a tuxedo. You have to
I have a
listen
tuxedo.
to me.
I can ride a bike with no handlebars.
Man, that was a good song back in the day.
It was.
That was. Would that be like an A-tier song? S-tier? B-tier?
Oh, definitely an A-tier song.
Like? Yeah, it was an A-tier song. I'm not
an A-tier song.
Real. Yeah.
Amazing. So I'm super excited to hear your great insights. Like, oh, Crusher Stampede again. All right.
Oh, you know what? Like,
solid.
I'm really excited. I'm not gonna lie. I'm really excited for where the meta is headed, and Custodies were. I mean, I had people telling me back in the summer that Custodies were kind of super boring, and they were worried that they wouldn't be that good. Not boring. They said it was actually a fun book, but boring because they were too overcosted. And we see that apparently that got through to somebody because we're getting a point update like right after LVO for them. But judging by the amount of games I've now watched and gotten to play as Custodies on TTS, they don't need it. They don't need it at all. They're already real good, particularly into the current meta. They have Thick City's number. They're really good into like orcs, all versions of orcs. They just seem to dominate. Yeah. Crusher Stampede, you really need to get that banner going. You need that Magnifica to hold some weight at the beginning. But if you do, that's also a match you can just outright win. It doesn't surprise me that we see Jack Harpster and John Lennon pivoting to it. John, after only playing like 3 games with the book, after planning on taking NIDS. So I'm excited to see that because Custodies are my favorite army. So I don't care if they have one week in the sun and then someone has to bring them down to earth. I'll take it. Hopefully it's not like 9 months like we've currently had with a couple other books, but so excited by this Custodies, see how they change things up. Thick City is an interesting thing. We're now seeing this rack attack, Thin City, whatever the F you want to call it, rack list that Manny Chima's bringing, which should be super exciting, unless they're on a clock, in which, who knows, probably
the chess clock killer. Yeah,
the chess clock killer. There's more than one list coming to LVO, and where we were 3 months ago, I don't know if we would have thought that. So that's where there's some excitement, at least.
Yeah, it's a whole new world.
Yep. And you know what? AdMech have a couple lists that people aren't seeing right now, and I'm pretty excited to make Mark Hertel's Mars list. There's a Metallica list out there that does work. Like, I'm excited to see what people bring. I've looked at a lot of the lists already. I don't get to talk about them because I don't think they're unlocked yet. They were supposed to be unlocked today. But
they're unlocked now.
Oh, they are? Excellent.
Yeah.
It's going to be good. I'm excited to see where things go. So,
yeah, for sure. And then chat, Dave from up here says, I hear Custodies are good against anything John is bringing to local tourneys, so I can have a chance to beat him while eating shredded cheese from a bag.
It's true.
You can do that with literally any army. That isn't exclusive to Custodies or sort of things like that. It's purely from a lack of skill point here. Those who can do, those who can't talk into a microphone.
It's true. That's
what I'm going to say there.
Peter, I have a question for you.
I have an answer.
Yeah. So what do you think about Grey Knights in the meta right now? Because they're kind of like, I feel like they're definitely taking a step back. Do you think
they really are?
Thick City and Custodies are really going to put the nail in the coffin for that army?
I really think that's the case. I think Custodies have an amazing game into Grey Knights, with especially Emperor's Chosen. That 4+ Feel No Pain against Psychic. And the fact that those bikes immediately put some pressure on you, you're not getting your Dread Knights into the positioning you want. You can take a turn of hits from those interceptors when they come in. Like, it's not a lost game to Grey Knights,
right?
But it's an uphill battle. Thick City's generally an uphill battle for Grey Knights. Like, they had 2 weeks where I think Reddit thought that they were the second coming. And then they've slowly but surely been having less and less top 4s.
Right.
We're seeing their win rate drop. NIDS is the same way though. Despite Crusher Stampede doing so well in the top 4s, win rates in the like high 40s, low 50s most weeks. Because like these new lists are popping up. I'm really excited to see after chapter approved where things go. I'm hopeful Custodies aren't overbearingly powerful. I'm hoping they're kind of at like a early Sisters level where they were winning stuff in the right hands. But so far from what I've seen, like, they're just so forgiving that, yeah. I'm not convinced that they're not going to be the big bad.
So you're saying kind of like you guys were saying like Grey Knights have kind of leveled out a little bit, like other armies have sort of leveled up, like Crusher Stampede is leveling out a little bit. How much do you think that comes from people just not being used to playing against these armies when we're coming from a place where like 6 months ago it was a very stale meta, where we're seeing kind of the same kind of lists over and over again?
I mean, that always plays a part. Generally, when a new book comes out, if it's even slightly good, it'll get 1 or 2 wins. If it gets the amount that we saw with Crusher Stampede in its first 2 weeks in terms of top 4s, generally a problem. But it seems to be being evened out by Crusher Stampede's a very specific list, is what we're seeing. Just like with a lot of things, like it's really reliant on how you play your Dimacaron, how you play your backfield Hive Guard, and if you have a bad turn with those Hive Guard, or if that Dimacaron only gets to pick up one thing, like that game turns immediately, right? So I think what we're seeing is kind of like what we often saw with like Space Marines and such. People are bringing NIDs. They're like, this Crusher Stampede list is easy to play. I'll just hammer everybody to death. They get their game 1, their game 2 off easy. They get to their game 3 table, and now they're starting to have troubles. And you're kind of seeing that in their average first round loss, with specifically Crusher Stampede, where that's where they take a stark dive is around that like round 3. But they're still winning stuff, so it's not like it's bad. And there are a lot of them coming to LVO. Because who doesn't want to play with big bad bugs? Like that's just an awesome thing to see.
Yeah, and kind of going off of that a little bit there, Frontline did release kind of a graphic which showed the number of armies or different factions coming when they were like over 10. Were there any surprises for you in that list? We have like a lot of Custodios coming, a lot of Crusher or Tyranids coming. And kind of other things. What were some of the surprises for you?
I mean, the amount of people that immediately pivoted to Custodios was surprising until you watched any like Art of War video, right? Because you had like Tabletop Titans and a couple others that were still very iffy on them. Like I don't think this is very competitive. It's an easy army to paint though, so with a new codex coming out right away. So Custodios being as high up is interesting. There's a lot of data that wasn't there though, because that graph was made with incomplete data, right? Like not all lists had been submitted, and they were only using what people had said was their list. There were a lot of people that had submitted lists that hadn't put anything. So like that evens out some of the numbers. It's intriguing. It's definitely not what we would have expected, even a month ago, by letting Gene Stealer cults and Custodios in.
Do you think there's going to be a lot of issues with players who are either playing or coming up against these new like Gene Stealer cult Custodios books? While there's some great reviews and kind of really clear images of those books available online at places like Mob Rules and others, there's not going to be like a lot of field practice against these games with the Jumkata the Custodios are doing, and then the different rules from the Gene Stealer cult book.
Sure.
Do you think there's going to be like a curve for those armies when you come up against them this weekend?
Oh yeah, especially Gene Stealer cults. They've got like their book is massive, and like everything is so intricately designed. It's very easy to screw up like a stratagem or a rule. Even Crossfire, I see people screw up all the time, and it's like the baseline thing they now have. But you see people mess up like how it actually functions pretty consistently. And that goes both ways. People are definitely underplaying a lot of stuff GSE has access to. And there's going to be a lot of gotcha moments on both sides of the table when they actually read the second part of a stratagem, say, or something like that. GSE I'm a little more concerned with than Custodios. As long as they've read their FAQs, they know the Praetorian Plate isn't going to be the gotcha that it could be. So folks, if you haven't already, do read the LVO FAQ. That'll give you some big insight into actually how things are supposed to be played. And then the katas, they're not as complicated as I think people, let them out to be. That's not super hard. It's harder on the player playing them to figure out the order to put them in, I would say, than the opponent to understand. So it's just a matter of keeping on your toes. If you're going up against a new book, just ask your opponent. Just say, hey, look, can I see your book while you do this stuff so I can understand what the heck's going on, and play like that. Right, you don't have to trust everything they say, but just be polite about it. These are brand new codexes. Most people won't have had a single game into them or with them, right, coming into this event. So
yeah,
absolutely. And it's like I said, I'm so excited the books are there. I think, especially for something like Gene Stealer Cult, where that was such a great looking army, but just such army on the table, kind of getting that nice little boost going into LVO is like a really great thing to have.
Yeah.
And they produce some, like, both Custodies and Gene Circles produce some pretty cinematic moments on the table. Like when things go right for them, like Custodies just surviving everything, or 3 guys dropping like a kill rig or something. Poor and then
we're not allowed to mention him on this show.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Legally, we got a cease and desist from him.
Because he was the butt of our jokes before the show decided to attack us.
I don't have any cease and desist, so I'll go nuts about how bad he's been playing into Custodies. I think he's like 1 in 5. But like GSC, like the Keller morph, the stuff that guy can do, just incredible, right? Just hop in 6 inches away, move, and then start doing all his shenanigans. That like he's going to create some real funky moments for people if they're not paying attention. It's just great. That's
or even pop out 9, right? Shoot somebody and then move and then assault.
Yeah,
because that's or 8. Sorry, 8 inches. My bad.
He hits with noodles, but still, it's cool. Like it's
tie up a tank or something like that. It's pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's great. I'm excited by having these 2 new codexes in. Little less excited given how strong Custodies are. So we'll have to see. Yeah. We'll have to see how that plays out on the table. Maybe everybody's wrong. Maybe they're real bad and like Lennon and Arpster go 1 in 6 and walk away in shame.
But like, let's not talk about things that probably won't happen. Who are some people that kind of really watch out for there? We do have like the number 1 in the ITC, Manny Chima, is going to be making his way across the pond to kind of continue his thing. I would assume with 100 pounds worth of carry-on luggage for his army. And then kind of we have the Art of War guys making it up and kind of other kind of notable names coming on. Who are some real people to watch this LVO?
I mean, you've got like all your normals. Sean Naden is always going to be someone you need to watch out for. Brad Chester, he's got a lot of spice in his list, and that guy is like, especially if he's had 1 or 2 wines in him, like watch him. Once he gets that second wine in his belly, he becomes a force. He becomes an absolute force. So you need to play him round 1. That's the key. Like if you draw Brad round 1,
before the bar opens.
Yeah, you got to get him before the bar opens, because as soon as he's able to point at our boy here, Richard, and tell him to get him a wine, like that's the only chance you have to get anything by that guy. Once that first one's down, it's over.
The joke's even better because Richard modeled his little cartoon avatar holding a cup for someone. Yeah. So whenever he's appeared on screen here, he's literally offering me drinks, as is apparently your role there.
It's clearly a coffee for me.
I don't get
that.
Drink. What do you need a coffee for?
I've done too many online meetings this past 2 years to know that a coffee cup does not actually contain coffee all the time. All right. That's all I want to say on that.
Fair enough.
But so Brad Chester, definitely the Art of War guys, always a threat, be it real life or in Warhammer. Who are some kind of peripherals that we're not used to seeing in that top 8 that you think have a real strong chance of making it?
Well, one of the ITC top 10 right now, I believe he's still top 10, unless he got knocked down. James Kelling from Goonhammer, Boone. He's got to be someone you need to watch. He is really down on himself as a player, but he didn't get to that position by beating on schmoes, right? His regular play partners are Ben Sherwin, another person you always need to watch out for. Matt Root, who isn't playing, he's a judge, so you need to watch out for him just because he's super fancy and he'll throw you off with his good looks. And he's a doctor. I know that he's taken, but like, guys,
so he can kill you with a touch.
He could kill you with a touch. Yeah. So you always got to think about that.
His Hippocratic oath.
I believe Ben Sherwin is bringing Black Templars, and that is something you should be cautious of, because they are an army that we know is good, but very few people get to play them at their full capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So what to you would be that? Like, what is like a Black Templar army at its full capacity? What excites you about seeing that game?
It's watching those Terminators. When you see that block of Terminators and you're like, oh, these are just worse Dark Angels, and then they are not. They're really not.
Yeah, they're not.
And no, I mean, like I had enough disappointing games into early Dark Angels where you'd kill all but like 2 and then lose because those 2 guys survived. It's worse with Black Templar. If you don't kill that sergeant, you're just like, oh no, I've made a terrible mistake, and that's the game. Guys like Ben. they have they have the skill to like maneuver the board in such a way that you have to be worried. Dan Salmons, who was the 2020, right? Yeah, 20. I don't know what year we're anymore. ITC winner, the Asterisk winner. He's bringing Custodies and Guard. He's not bothering with Kata. I believe his current list is like 2 Blade Champions, 6 Dreadnoughts, and 2 Manticores. Like that's it. That is an interesting list to watch out for. Because that's got if those Manticores go off turn 1, you're in a bad place. You're in a real bad place because all he has to do is deal with whatever.
Looks like Dan Salmons actually got to Peter the Falcon, who's giving away his
trying
tactics.
To spoil his tactics, yeah,
for sure. And I will say, mostly watch out for Dan Salmons because his two what are those new guys called? The Blade Captains. They're just the shirtless
Pog Champs.
Oh, the Pog Champs. Yeah. They're just the shirtless Custodies models. And Dan Salmons, if you hear of this at some point, you need to put more kind of shiny varnish on the chests of those Custodians to make them extra good.
Yeah.
So we have some
another card code on mine, John.
Yeah. So one time there's a Secret Santa thing here locally. Danny, you'll remember this. Where like we had to make and paint a model for like just one model for someone else in the community, and I got a Grey Knights player. So I made a shirtless Grey Knight interceptor who was jumping down from the heavens with a thunder hammer, and I used a half bottle of the varnish on his chest area, but not on his back because he can't reach his back because he's still muscular. And no Marine would ever do another Marine's back.
You think that he could just like, reach up behind him with like a thing of baby oil and like kind of squirt it? No.
But no.
Okay.
No. The technology doesn't exist. He didn't go through the Lubicon Primaris yet. But you are Rule 34. It's got to be a thing somewhere. Danny, you are an insane man right now. You're taking your Necrons to LVO.
I am.
And you're taking a non-drug number monolith.
I'm taking 1 monolith, yeah.
What was the thought behind the monolith?
I said I would take a monolith. I don't know. I want to have a good time in my games. I think it's got some cool movement tricks and stuff with it. I mean, it's not good. Like, I'm not trying to make that kind of an accusation, but you can do some cool stuff with it sometimes.
That's
my pitch.
I really want GW to have like on the front of their boxes just like quotes from people like you would for like movies, like the front of a Nicolas Cage movie where it'd have like it's nonstop action, like Chris Anderson, Denver Sun, like just a monolith. It's okay, I guess. I like to have fun. Like Danny McDivett. It's right on front and center on the monolith box, right?
Peter, what would you put on that box?
Just you, man. Just your face.
Oh,
just
your
my face.
Like
in the trilby.
Danny approved.
In the trilby, though. You need the hat.
In the trilby?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. And guys, I lied to you. I just double-checked the roster. Ben switched to Tyranids. Ben Sherwin.
Boo.
Switching to Tyranids. You know what? I take everything back. He's not a good player. James Kelling doesn't stand a chance.
Fair. Hot takes. Is there any, like, looking at who is going, is there any kind of dream matchups that you really want to commentate on or try and commentate on while Adam talks?
Yes, I want to commentate on Alex McDougall versus basically any other top player because I love his NID and GSC list. It's something I know he's been working on for a long time, and once he got the Gene Stealer Cult Codex in his hands, like it really came to form. So I'm really, really interested to see how that list plays into John Lennon, who helped build it. That would be a great matchup. I think that's a matchup where John really has to like, grit his teeth because, Alex knows that list inside and out, and John's new to Custodies. Well, newish, at least to this book. I believe Rubio is still coming. And that rematch would be exciting to me because if you guys didn't, he is. If you guys didn't know, 2 years ago, when we last had this event, Malik came with Imperial Fists bullcrap to the LVO, and I believe he lost in round 2 or 3 to Alex McDougall. Had no idea who he was. It was like Thanos versus the Scarlet Witch. and like he had except he couldn't call down some kind of orbital bombardment. Spoilers. It was just like Alex took him to task, and Malik, who in his mind and probably several other people's minds was favorited to at least get to the shadow round. Dream killed early against a very weak codex at the time in Nids. But now Alex has got his hands on some real spicy stuff. So that rematch, I know Malik I believe he was planning on bringing Crusher Stampede. So that would be a very interesting match to see play out, Crusher versus like a majority GSC list with just some Leviathan warriors and Hiveguard. Like that would be a list I'd love to commentate on just because of how good Alex is on the table.
Sure.
Anything that Naden plays, you always love to commentate on, because like there's a lot of games that like where Adam and I, we just know what's probably going to happen in a turn when you're watching top players play. Like you can see, and then it's just a matter of like, did the dice play out the way they wanted? Naden will always surprise you. At least once a game, he'll do a thing and you'll be like, oh, like I see what he's doing. Did not expect that. And it generally plays out for him. So like those are like, that's always a matchup that I like to commentate. I love that. It's too bad Inari doesn't exist anymore, because those were always my favorite. It was commentating stuff like that, trying to figure out what of the 800 things that they could do every turn was. So no, it's great. It's I'm pretty excited. There's a player from the like Dakota region, Charlie Andre, who's been doing really amazing with Dark Angels. He'd switched off them briefly, but he's bringing Dark Angels again to LVO. That's a game I'd like to commentate. I know Dark Angels can be kind of boring, but the way Charlie plays is very interesting. So like it would be a match that I'd like to see, because he's definitely like a David versus Goliath guy, where he can take out a top competitor if they're not careful.
Sure.
Do you think there's a lot of that where you do, because there is a lot of, name players now? Like I said, you have Trepas in Florida with all the Art of War guys. You got like Manny, Rubio, like Alex Madu, like all of these people who are becoming commonly known in the competitive community. Do you think there's like a thing with these guys where they maybe don't take their opponents seriously if they're not known, or kind of they're an unsure quantity? Sort of like what happened a couple of years ago, you said, with Alex McDougall's game.
Yeah, like I don't know if they don't take them seriously anymore. I think enough guys have had their sphincters tighten a little too tight in the wrong matchup. At least all the smart guys do, right? They'll know like anybody could be the thing, right? But they also know the list design, so they can generally look at a list and be like, okay, I see what this guy's probably going to do. I know how to counter it, and I know how to play like my game, right? Like we're not going to have a Nick Nanavati this year, I don't think. There'll probably be a couple upsets, because however many people will end up with 800, 900, 1,000 players, there's going to be upsets. But I can't see us having a game where like you have a Nanavati basically taken out in the opening rounds by an actual known player, if you like knew the European scene, but you really didn't back then, right? Or most people didn't.
Yeah, we didn't know who that was for another 6 months.
And then you're just like, this guy lost to like Magnus Morty and Renegade Knights. What? I don't see that this time. Like just looking at the lists people are bringing, to me, there's no like YOLO White Scars moment from any of these players. Like the closest we have is like Lennon switching to Custodios, but they're so strong that it's not a shock.
They're just so good. And it's never a baller move to drop out in the first day.
No,
it is not. Peter, you brought up a really interesting point here. Like anyone like who's watched any kind of professional wrestling could know that commentary is super hard to do. And especially sort of in a 40K setting where your job is to kind of keep the viewers engaged, informed, and entertained for up to 3 hours. When a lot of the times, like I said, you and Adam will know after 30 minutes how the game will play out. What is it you do to kind of keep that energy going and keep things up when you're like, wow, this is what's going to happen now?
So you really need to have like a good partner. Like solo commentary is practically impossible unless you're Adam Camilleri. It's so hard to do because like you can see a table and you generally have the idea of it right away. Oftentimes the chat doesn't, so you have to keep that in mind. Like they'll be like, oh man, this guy's gonna lose, and immediately like he's got it in the bag. So you got to be careful. So the big thing is if you have somebody you can bounce stuff off of, you can just bullshit, right, for 3 full hours and keep it entertaining. And you jump on stories in a game. If you know that a game is probably lost, you jump on the stories and you hype up the possibility that it'll turn around, because there's always the possibility that someone goes Yahtzee, right, or rolls 5 ones on a roll that they never should have. I think back to Capital City Bloodbath, which I did with Rob Symes from The Honest Wargamer, and we commentated a game with Scary versus I wish I could remember this guy's name. He was a really awesome Harlequins player. But Scary basically crippled him turn 1 with his Drukhari. And the game was over for sure turn 2, but we kept it exciting for the whole game just because of watching for those moments and playing out those moments. Luckily, with this setup that Val and the guys have created, we're going to have 6, 7, 8, 100 tables if we want access to them, right? We have a guy with a camera that's going to be mobile. We have 2 tables that are going to be fully set up with cameras. So we're going to be able to maneuver. We have other tables that are going to be nearby, so we can set up on one table. If a game is going to end real early, we can just take all the equipment and shove it onto another one. So like, unless we work into some magical scenario where like there's 500 games that end immediately, like we should be able to keep people entertained with close matchups the entire time. Good. Adam is a great commentator anyway. Like, he can talk about anything. And I have learned how, when I'm talking with somebody like that, just to ask them questions. That's the best way to do it, right? It's if you're talking, like when we commentated the Charity Hammer event several months ago, if I had to commentate with someone like Alex McDougall or John Lennon, I didn't talk. I just asked them questions because they were the specialists in the armies on the table. And that creates the flow. So that's what you do. You get someone like Adam who knows so much about the game. And it's not to say that I don't, but I can field the questions. I can be the Paul Murphy that John Maddens things for people if we need to, and keep things moving.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about comebacks and kind of like surprise things. What's the greatest comeback you've commentated on or seen in professional 40K?
The greatest comeback I have commentated on. I was a really shitty commentator for the game because I was by myself. So I was trying to stay quiet because they set me up like right beside the table. But it was probably the BAO finals from like 3 years ago, Jeff Robinson versus Jim Vessel, because that game was Jim's to lose. If you were watching that game closely, by about turn 3, it really didn't look good for Jeff. But Jim forgot that a Custodios could fly, and he didn't know that it could land on top of one of the buildings that he'd been hiding his sorcerers behind to avoid getting sniped by Jeff's Vindicare that had rolled 3 1s in a row. So he'd done nothing for the first 3 rounds of the game. Jim had like hammered into his back line with a bunch of bloodletters. Didn't look good for Jeff. Jeff flies that Custodios up on top of that building, snipes. I believe he ends up sniping 2 characters, one with the Vindicare, one with the Custodios, and completely reverses that game. And it was it was an exciting game to watch because it was at the time 2 of my favorite players. Jim was like in the middle of his big run where he'd won like several majors in a row, and was kind of surprising people still at that time. He just had a tight game against John Lennon's Tyranids, where John had completely forgot to charge a unit near the end of the game, and it basically lost him the game. This after Jim completely forgot to deep strike his bloodletters in that game. So it was a game where both guys barely got to the top table by the skin of their teeth. Jeff had lost a game to Brandon Grant earlier so there was a lot of story to tell. And I really wished I hadn't been by myself, because that's a game where you want a color commentator to tell those stories while you're watching this happen and to build the excitement. And that's why I like about this LVO, the current setup we have, where we can get excited, we can like be loud and say the cool things, and we know the players aren't going to gain extra information out of it.
Yeah, just sitting by the table, like, it looks like he forgot to charge that unit over there.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, damn it.
In that Jim versus John game, like there came a moment when Jim completely forgot his bloodletters, where I was with Mariana, who had been the production design person at the time for FLG. We were sitting there, and she didn't really care much about Warhammer, but she knew the tech stuff. And I looked at her, and I was like, I need to tell somebody something so exciting. So I like told her in the like hushed tones, and she's like, I get it. And I was like,
And the perfect
Awesome.
freeze frame.
Perfect. Every time we have Peter on, Peter, you have like the perfect freeze frame with your face. I like to think you just model yourself in ridiculous facial expressions at all times. So no matter when it freezes, we'll get kind of comedy gold. Danny, you had something.
No?
Perfect. Love it. Good times.
I was listening to a captivating story from Peter, and it spoke to my soul on a deep level, especially turn 3 frigating your deep strikers. I mean, that just is that's a classic Danny move right there. That's the whole thing. You still won, to be fair. I'm not going to point that part out, but you did forget to deep strike. And I think that just goes to show as well that all levels of 40K make stupid little mistakes, and how like important these little mistakes are. Are you seeing kind of like generally as the years have progressed here, and you've been doing more and more of your stats on 40kstats.com, the general skill of people is increasing really rapidly?
Oh yeah. There's I believe that there's now like an extra tier of play that we didn't have before.
Yeah.
Like I think the top level players from even a couple years ago, they're like they wouldn't compete today. We have so many players that like, you know, they live and breathe 40K. They get paid to play 40K. They get paid to talk about 40K. That the game has changed. So like the top level, there's like an S tier now that didn't exist before, where before you had guys like Brandon Grant or Alex Harrison, who just like, despite what has been said about Alex, like if you watch them play, they're fantastic players. Like really solid strategic minds. Matt Root's another one. But then now we're at a point where you watch these guys like Jack or Mark, like the AOW guys, for example, or even like Manny Chima, where they just get so many reps with every friggin' army that they just like they've already experienced everything they're seeing at the table. You know, it's like what they say about top chess players, right? Like they played this game 1,000 times already. So when you like, I get people tell me, like, ask me all the time, like, do you think these guys get the books early because they know playtesters and stuff? And I'm like, I don't know, and I don't care. These guys play so many games that, like, if a book is good, day one they've already played 4 or 5 games on it, right?
Right.
They played more than most of us have played in a month or more with their favorite army on the table, not TTS or anything else, where there's like that virtual element. So they've physically got that tactile bit going too. And it's completely like changed that upper tier.
Yeah. And Danny, you got the chance to play against some of these top guys at that Charity Hammerhead event a few months ago. Noticeably, you played against John Lennon and his Space Marine Army, a couple other guys as well. What is the difference like playing into these guys rather than kind of like your regular RTT or GT crowd?
I mean, they're just very proficient at what they're doing. Like every move is known. Like, so they like, I think it's really important to focus in on what Peter said earlier in that, like, they've already had this experience before. So this is not their first rodeo. Like they know what's going to happen. Whether it's to spit your drink all over yourself or to know exactly when to charge a unit. Like they've done it. They've done it at the table. They'll do it at the table, and they have that experience, and that's critical, right?
The non-body special, we call it.
Right. As everyone knows.
Knowing when to open your mouth and when to close it.
I've done it 100 times. It's another reason why someone like Jaime Paris did so well at Charity Hammer, right? Because these guys hadn't seen that style of Space Wolf played out.
Yeah, that's true.
He had played it 100 million times, really, because that's all he played, right?
So yeah, it's just I think that's a huge benefit, and I don't think that very many other players can replicate that, right? Because you know, families, jobs that aren't playing 40K, for instance. Like I think it's difficult to get to that level without kind of some serious sacrifice in your personal life.
Peter, before we kind of sign off here, throw out a quick thing here. We all know your John Lennons, your Sieglers, your Chesters, all kind of our big names. Who are kind of like the next generation of players who are really kind of starting to make a name for themselves out there?
Ooh. I think if you look at like the guy I just mentioned, Jaime Paris, like that's a guy.
Very good.
He's very good. Space Wolf's just got better. I mean, he took a hit on his Wolf Guard, but Wolfen being like 10 points cheaper, whatever they went down, that changes some things up. So Jaime, somebody you always have to watch out for. Anthony Vanilla, despite being a bit of a meathead and being like head down, all I want to do is punch you in the dick.
Which is his only choice because of his height, to be fair.
Because of his height. He's an excellent player. Like, there's a reason why he just made Team USA. Like he's got the mind there. Like, those are two that we don't talk about a lot that are definitely moving up. I talked about Charlie Andre, basically a brand new player come 9th edition, and he in the Midwest he's been racking up wins. Somebody you always need to watch out for. Like, there are a lot of guys that put in reps against really good players, and we don't talk about them enough. And they're just going to get better as like this edition moves on. So,
yeah. Final question, Peter, before we let you go away and kind of figure out your tuxedo situation. Who wins LVO this year?
Richard Siegler.
Perfect. Nailed it. Cool. Richard, of course, not coming to LVO.
He's going to win it.
Yep.
All it's going to take is like 800 odd concessions.
Yeah. If we can make it happen, I'm picturing
Goat Siegler.
I'm picturing, and like I've said this to some other people when he announced he wasn't going to go. In my mind, round 1 starts. Reese calls out that you can start your clocks or whatever the hell he's going to do this time because he doesn't have a job anymore. He's basically homeless. He's going to yell out some random gibberish. We're going to hit our clocks to get going. And then you're going to hear like a slam. And then the speakers are going to light up. Mr. Roboto is going to start playing.
Oh, okay.
Just blaring. Richard Siegler is going to run down the aisle with a steel chair. Dome Manny Chima. Throw his models on the floor. Slam his AdMech down. Victory.
Perfect.
Take his yellow card. Salty John's going to be there, and he's going to be like, I got to allow it. I see nothing in the code of conduct that says you aren't allowed to do this.
There's nothing in the rules.
We forgot the steel chair bit.
Yeah,
it's a permissive rule set.
Yeah.
I'm not
going to
lie.
Gandalf Adam Solis told me we should put it in, but I declined. I thought that was not really needed.
I kind of hear the John Cena theme song playing when this happens, and it's just
I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see Siegler doing this. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
I just see Siegler storming in, doing all that stuff. You can't see me. And then I'm just standing at the table like, I guess I don't get a buy now. Thanks.
Yeah. That's actually what's going to happen. That's actually what's going to happen. You're going to have a Peter Colosimo SoCal Open circumstance where you're going to be like, I flew 1,900 miles to play in this tournament and I got a buy turn 1. And they're like, sorry, you don't get a buy. Here, play Richard Kilton. And you're like, who's that guy? Oh, shit. No, he's real good.
I'll just roll up to the table and they'll just be like, no, don't bother unpacking your models. We're going to call this like 97.3.
Is everyone
I'm painted?
But your paint job's a 3. Let's be honest.
How can you see my Templars from all the way over there? That is very accurate. Peter, thank you so much for coming on. Richard, if you could prep that wonderful shark graphic to kind of play us out as we're supposed to be, so we can really realize what our tier for sharks are. Again, Las Vegas Open is this weekend. If you guys are not going and not being a part of it, you can follow along with Peter the Falcon and Adam Camilleri live on the Frontline Gaming Network starting this Friday at 10 a.m.
I don't know. I'm going to be awake.
Pacific Standard Time. Oh, cool. I got it. Just, Tyler, if you could edit out the questioning in my voice, that would be perfect.
Amazing.
Don't add more.
Don't do it, Tyler.
Add more questions. And it'll be there for all 3 days of coverage, on Friday, Saturday, and the final 8 on Sunday to see who's going to be the ITC champion for the 2021 season, 22 season. Peter, thank you. Danny, thank you. Guys, we're not going to be here next week. We are taking a week off. This is almost like a season finale, mainly because I'll be on a plane, which has the same level of internet as an Adam Camilleri hotel room in Florida. So we're taking that week off, and we will be back the week after recapping our LVO. And I think I have a pretty great guest lined up who will be able to enlighten us a lot about the hobby, things of fun nature. But Cena. We will Sean Cena, his cousin, actually. But thank you to our editor, Tyler, producer, Tricky Dick, our guest, Duke Falcon. For Danny, I will see you in Vegas or see you in a couple weeks, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, have a great night. We will see you in a Monday.
Bye-bye.